What's up, everybody? It's Mike, this old hot rod. I'm in the shop. I am working on the Dragster. Gonna work on the gas tank mount today. And I had just a piece of plate going over on top of the frame rails. I had the gas tank kind of just sitting there. Some of these drag cars have the fuel tank at the top of the frame rails, like a plate or a bracket or whatever mounted at the top of the frame rail. Some of them have it lower down at the height of the bottom of the frame rail. I think I want to do that. I think I want to set it down some. I already whipped up a small template, so this is going to be on the inside of the frame rail, and then I have some round tubing. I'm going to use that for the supports that go across. The span of the fuel tank, which this here, which is going to be down here, here. This template, I originally was going to build it here and have it go on top of the frame rail. What I think now I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it down flush with the bottom of the frame rail, work its way around these two holes in the boxing plates. It's going to come up at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to cut the ends of these tubes at a 45-degree angle. I need to make sure that I leave room to access the bolt heads so I can put it on and remove it if I need be in the future. So it's super low like that, and it looks super freaking cool. All right, so I have this piece of stainless that my buddy Joe gave me a while ago that I've had. I might as well use the bend that's already in this metal. It'll save me the trouble of bending it. So I'm hoping we can at least get things close and then fine tune things afterwards. I'm gonna have to freehand it. So I don't know how good that's gonna go, but I'm at least gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna stay away from the edges. Like I'm not gonna cut it right on the Sharpie mark. These parts shouldn't be a big deal, but I'm a little concerned about going around those edges, and especially inside this corner. There's only one way to find out. I have another flat piece of stainless there if I need to use that, if I screw this up too bad. Whoa! A little bit of pop in that, huh? Wow. So let me grab a square. Maybe that'll help me. It looked a lot nicer in my mind. It's pretty ugly. I'm gonna try to clean it up. If not, I may just end up having to make it out of mild steel and painting it. I don't know. Yeah. I at least want to try to clean this one up. If I can clean it up, then I'll move forwards with the second one. If I can't clean it up, I'll go back to the drawing boards, because what else are you gonna do, right? That went right in my glove. Holy shit. I just want to make sure that I'm doing all the work in the right spot, you know. These are my center marks. So basically these flanges here, so they're this wide. They only need to be that wide, but they need to be on the center of that right there. I'm basically going to mark it like that and eliminate a little bit on each side, on both sides. Make sure that my measurements are right and I'm doing it right. But so far it's actually coming out pretty good. I'm just trying to figure out what tools to use. I'm using this little die grinder here with a metal deburring bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make these measurements, figure out what I need for the width, for the surface, and then eliminate the rest of this. Because at this point now, I'm cleaning all these areas up. I'm not going to end up using them. So that's what the bracket looks like so far. I went over to my box pan brake. You see those two tabs, they're bent up now. So what I'm trying to accomplish, which you guys probably know what I'm trying to accomplish, is that. So it's flush with the bottom of the frame, and then my fuel tank will sit on top of this rail. What more can you ask for? I need to drill 3 holes in this, which I probably should have already done before I bent those tabs up, but it's too late now. I can get to the center one, and I can get to these ends from the back. So let me just mark out these 3 holes, and I'll get these 3 holes drilled. I still have to make another one of these. Let's get some holes drilled. Now, I don't typically drill holes with a regular drill, but I'm doing it today because I screwed myself when I bent those. Pretty good. So these are my mounts. Again, I still need to kind of clean them up a little bit. I still have a lot of work to do as far as getting the tubes cut down. I need to get the holes drilled in the frame still, and then get things kind of fitted and set in place. And then, like I said, we can check it off the list. So let's head over to the frame, and I'm gonna get some holes drilled in the frame. I've got the main structure so far welded up. I'm gonna hit it with a flap disc real quick and just clean up just a little bit, not much. The weld's actually welded up pretty nice. Doesn't look like I have any voids or holes or anything, so clean this up real quick. And then what I think I'm gonna do is my next step is I think I'm gonna build 4 small posts, maybe like 1/2 inch tall or 1 inch tall, and then take my hole saw and drill out 4 circles and cap the tops of the posts, and then I'll be able to thread them, and then I'll just be able to bolt the gas tank right into those little 1 inch tall posts. I think it'll give this mount a better look than just drilling 4 holes through the tubing. That's what I came up with last night after I stopped working on it, or 2 days ago when I stopped working on it. Kind of putting a little more thought into it and came up with that. So let's, what I'm doing is, I had a little bit more time to think about my mounts. I think I had said that earlier in the video. In the event I haven't, I'm gonna let you know now. So I machined up and made a couple of small little standoff mounts to go on top of the rail system that I made for my fuel tank. So what I need to do now is I need to attach a little of the nut to a washer like that, and then this nut and washer is gonna get welded. The nut will be inside the washer, and that washer is gonna get welded onto the top of that like that with the threads on the inside. So I'll be able to thread the bolt into this and then lock down my fuel tank on these little posts. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. I got a bunch of these little welding pieces, that I gotta weld up. Probably gonna hit them real quick on the sanding disc, just clean them up real fast before I get them welded. Once these are done, I'll attach all these little standoff posts onto the tank itself, set the tank on the rail, and then get some tacks and then remove the tank, get everything welded up. That's what I'm working on. So I'm trying to get the fuel tank wrapped up today. So what I'm trying to do is making sure that I center the nut on the washer. So I'm using this little slug that I drilled out of a piece of 1/4 inch plate. So I'm just gonna center the washer on that slug. It's got a 1/4 inch hole in it. The hardware is 1/4 inch by 20. Should be good right there. Let's see how it goes. In my head, that should work. that's not gonna work. Geez, I might be better off welding the bolt. No, it's not gonna matter either way. All right, so I got good penetration on a lot of the weld, but what happens unfortunately is the weld penetrates through the washer and now it doesn't sit flush on the end of the tubing, so I'm just gonna clean up a little bit of that penetration. This is new today. My ground strap just decides it doesn't want to work anymore. It's pretty awesome. Way to go, China. Way to go. Good. All right, I'm gonna call that one done. Done for now. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to get all of these posts, as long as they're not too hot, set in place with all the hardware and everything on the actual tank mount, so I can then take this and bring it over to the mount for the fuel tank that's attached to the chassis right now, and get this all welded and tacked together and welded as one piece. So then at that point I'll know everything's exactly where it needs to be. Alright. Alright, let's bring this over to the car and see how it looks. Alright, so that's how it looks so far. I mean, I guess I could bring this over to the table and do it on the table. It would certainly be easier. Alright, so these are all tacked in place now. These should come off. Fits, everything lined up. There was a little bit of bending in these tubes where I heated, where I welded, so I did end up having to straighten those back out again. But I'm really happy with the way it came out. I haven't put the bolts in yet. I just set it in place once I got the tank mounted on the actual stands themselves, or the stand itself. But that's what my mount's gonna look like. I am really happy with it. I am gonna do a little bit more work on it, but I think it fits the car good. It's certainly lightweight, should be rugged enough to hold a gallon of gas. I'm glad that I spent a little extra time thinking about things and decided to make those posts. I ended up having to do these the opposite way that I had planned, which is fine. Just kind of, you have to evolve as things go sometimes. Hope everybody thinks it's cool. Yeah, if you don't, it is what it is. You know, the car is still in mock-up phase, so there is going to be some more tweaking and stuff being done in the process as I work on it. All right, guys, well, that's the fuel tank mount. I'm glad I spent a little more time thinking about it. I had a day or so in between originally working on it and then just finishing it now. So I will have that back up on the table, I'm sure, at some point. If there's any major issues with the welding, I can always just go back around and fill in any issues or spots that I think are questionable. Again, I'm still learning how to TIG weld. All the different metals heat at different ranges, you know, and the tungsten and the filler rod, and being comfortable. And I got a new chair. You can see it's like that right there. I got a new chair for the shop, trying to make myself be more comfortable. You know, my welds hopefully will come out better. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna do a little bit add on to this particular video. I'm working on my induction system, my velocity stacks. So on one of the last videos, I had 2 old chrome velocity stacks and 2 frog mouth scoops sitting on the intake. The only reason I did that was because I only had 2 frog mouth scoops and I only had 2 velocity stacks. And I was kind of trying to decide which way I wanted to go with it. I ultimately decided to go with some velocity stacks, and the reason why is I'm going to be running exhaust outside the body of the car, and I'm going to bell the ends, so like a trumpet horn. And I wanted a velocity stack to kind of go with that look. You can't find them. I didn't want to buy cheap garbage ones, so I ended up going on eBay, and I found a company that had 4 pieces of 5.5 inch tall, 2 5/8 inner diameter anodized aluminum tubing. It's a marine company. I'm not exactly sure what they do, but they only had 4 pieces. So I bought all 4 pieces, and I'm going to use those for my carburetor scoops or my velocity stacks, but they're just straight cut aluminum. I'll show you guys what I'm going to do with it because I've already done one. But I have to take my time because if I screw these up, he said he doesn't have any more, and it's a rarity that they typically use this particular type of tubing. So I can't screw up. So this is what the tubing looks like. It's 1/8 wall. Basically, it's a little thicker than what I would want to use. I'd like to use something a little bit thinner, but it was the diameter of the tube is what dictated what I needed to buy, and that's what I found. So I got 4 of these. They're 5.5 inches tall, I believe. It's anodized. You got see a little bit of weld on that one from the company. Anodized aluminum tubing. So that's what it looks like. That's what I'm making. And I'll show you guys how I did that. All right. Okay, so we're over here at the press. This is an old press that I bought a few years ago. It's pretty cool. It's a 40 ton. So you guys know what that is. It's an early Ford front hub, wheel hub with the drum removed. I greased it up. I got my little thing of grease over here. Got my tubing here. So this tubing, I'm using this as the first stage to spread it. So I got my tubing there. I'll raise this up. I'll run that down a little bit until it's just touching. I want to make sure that this is at 90 degrees. So I'm going to get this aligned real quick. So I'm going to go 90 degrees this way, and it needs to be 90 degrees this way. Once I get that angle correct, I'll start pressing this down till this tube gets to the bottom of this little collar here. Once that's done, I'll take it off of the spindle and I will put it on this piece of metal, and that will finish the flare. So I'll show you guys. I'm going to switch the battery out of my camera and I'll do this without using my phone because it'll be almost impossible to do it with my phone. All right. So here we are. So 89.5. So that's at 90. 89.4. All right, it keeps flopping back and forth. So that's at 90. All right. So now I just start pumping. Okay. Remove it from the spindle. Put it on this. Get my block back on there. Make sure I'm at 90. Kind of finds its own home now. So we make sure that's all nice and greased still so it moves nice and free. I don't want the aluminum to split. That's my biggest fear. Here we go. So once you get that great amount of resistance, you stop. Because at that point, it's really not going to go any further. And that is my velocity stack with grease on it. That's number 2. All right, everybody, here's the final result. I still do need to drill and tap some screws in here so I can attach them to the carburetor. But tell me what you think. I think they're pretty badass. Now, hopefully they're not going to be too tall for me to see. I think I'll be okay. Man, they look cool. They're basically like a mini Hillborn style velocity stack. Made right here in the shop, which is pretty cool. Kind of goes along with everything else on this car so far. So we got the gas tank mount finished up this morning. It's still pretty early, and then also obviously the velocity stack. So thanks everybody for following along. I really appreciate it. Thanks there's been a lot of new subscribers recently, so appreciate that. There's a lot of different YouTubers out there and guys that are building, you know, these old hot rods, so I appreciate you guys taking time out of your life and your busy schedule to watch my crappy videos. Thanks everyone. We'll see you guys soon. See you at the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.